Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. Name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch, and today I'm going to give a full recap on last night's heavyweight title fight between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz. Hopefully you caught Rob's initial reaction that, like the rest of the world, we were pretty shocked and entertained by the action that we got last night. So what I'm going to do is talk about what happened in the ring versus what I thought was going to happen in the ring, and talk about what happens going forward. So go ahead, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this with your friends, because I know you're going to like what you hear, because it's all facts. So when I did the preview video, I mentioned there was a few things that Andy Ruiz did really well, and right off the bat I threw out physique. And I threw that out because a lot of people online were getting on Andy Ruiz about his physical appearance. And I said, there's a lot of guys out there with six packs that can't go 12 rounds. Andy Ruiz can go 12 rounds, and he can go 12 hard rounds. So he is in shape, even though he doesn't look like the prototypical in shape person, which is more like Anthony Joshua. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to the preview video below so you can watch that and you can verify everything that I'm saying, because I don't want to lie to you. Anyway, I mentioned that he had really fast hands. That was on display. I mentioned that he had really good footwork. That was on display. And I'm bringing all that up because those are the key factors that led to his victory last night. So Joshua came in heavy favorite, and with good reason. He was taller, he was longer, had the glossier record, had the pedigree. This guy was an Olympic gold medalist, unified titleist, had fought one of the best heavyweights of the era, came out of adversity and won that fight. And then he was fighting a late replacement of a guy who wasn't really known to the general public, and even some of the hardcore boxing fans may not have known a lot about Ruiz, but it didn't matter, because at the end of the video I said it didn't matter how much he was favored, how much everyone was dismissing Ruiz. At the end of the day, Joshua and Ruiz had to get in there and fight. And when they got in there and fought, this is what happened. The first thing, Andy Ruiz utilized his footwork to make that ring very, very small for Anthony Joshua. He cut off the ring excellently. He was in his face all night and surprisingly was in very good range for most of that time. For a guy that's 6'6" and 250 pounds of solid muscle, you don't want that guy in your face like that all night. And that's what Ruiz did. He stayed in his face. He stayed in a range where he could land punches, and land punches he did. The second thing we talked about, the hand speed. I said in the preview video that his hands may have been faster than Joshua's. On fight night, that proved to be true. Joshua had a great jab, but when he threw in combination, it wasn't as fast as when Ruiz threw in combination. His punches came at a blistering speed, and they had some mustard on them. Clearly. So Ruiz was able to throw a lot of combinations, and the really smart thing that he did was he threw combinations anytime Joshua threw a combination. So he punched with Joshua, which is something that a lot of coaches try to teach, but it's really hard to do when you got the Hulk throwing punches at you, because Anthony Joshua is a very strong guy, very powerful guy, and when he lands, he can hurt you, which he did. How did he do it? Something I mentioned in the preview video that I talked about with Rob before I put that video out. Andy Ruiz tends to keep that right hand low, and it was down low the entire fight. Joshua was able to catch him with several left hooks. Unfortunately, The only time that he landed a real combination was the only time that he dropped Ruiz. Ruiz landed in combination several times in that fight, resulting in 4 knockdowns. So that's another thing that us as coaches like to tell fighters. Throw in combinations. Throw 3, 4 punches at a time. Being someone that's been in the ring, I know that's easier said than done, but with experience, confidence, and experience and confidence, you're going to do it. And Ruiz trusted himself, trusted his trainer. He had a veteran in his corner, Robles, and he was able to follow the instructions and pull out the victory. The last thing I do want to say that Anthony Joshua and his corner were also giving great instructions, but there was a bit of foreshadowing on my part, because as I was watching the fight, maybe about between the first round and the end of the second round, my best friend texted me, shout out to Mel Madness, and he asked me, he was like, hey, do you think Joshua overtrained? And I was like, what are you talking about? Why do you say that? He's like, he just looks weird. His skin doesn't look that great. And I didn't really notice that. And I was like, I don't know. I think it's just that Ruiz is really good. He's been underrated here. I think that, he's just pushing Joshua a little bit more than people expected him to. And as the fight wore on, and the commentators made a good point about Joshua not throwing as many punches as he's used to throwing, one of which was because Ruiz was not allowing him to, because anytime he tried to throw a combination, boom, 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 he's throwing a combination. Also, he was pretty much smothering the range and cutting the ring off. Joshua could never get comfortable. So those factors could have led into him, because 5th, 6th round, he was looking really tired. I mean, really tired. And by the 7th round, he was done. He looked done. And you have to credit the things that Andy Ruiz was doing in order to make that happen. Now, it could have been that he took Ruiz a little bit lightly. Like I said, he was a late replacement. Didn't look the part of a heavyweight contender. Just around here, though. Because when he started throwing those hands, he looked the part. When he used that footwork, he looked the part. Skill-wise, he looked the part. He may not have, like I said, we're not putting any posters of Andy Ruiz on our wall as we lift weights. But now, people might drop the weights and just start saying, F it, I'm going to be who I am, which is great. Especially for the times and the culture that we're in right now, this is a great win for people. Most people look like Andy Ruiz and not Anthony Joshua. And so now they see that this guy who doesn't look like an Adonis, doesn't look like the cover of Sports Illustrated or Ring Magazine or, a Hollywood blockbuster, is the heavyweight champ of the world, owns all but one of the belts. That's highly motivating. There's going to be a lot of people going into work saying, I could do anything. Look at this guy. He's a heavyweight champ of the world. So that's great. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover tactical-wise about what happened in the fight. One thing I was surprised about is that nobody really utilized uppercuts, which in the preview video I said would be open for Ruiz because of the way Joshua held his hands. Joshua likes to keep that high guard, but he doesn't keep it tight. So I thought if Ruiz could, in those combinations, go to the body and then come up, he would have success. But he had success going around Joshua's guard and punching when Joshua was punching, taking advantage of small windows of opportunity, which means precision punching. So Andy Ruiz put on a skillful performance last night, and he needs 100% credit for that. Now, to Joshua's credit, each time he was knocked down, he did get up. He made a gambit at the end of the fight that backfired big time, where he lost his mouthpiece and he was trying to stall for time to get the ref to call time to get the mouthpiece. But that body language showed to the ref that he didn't want to fight. So he called it. You can see Joshua like, what are you doing? Like, he almost immediately knew, like, oh, I just messed up. So what's going to happen next? One thing that my man Mel pointed out was that now Al Heyman is in possession of the entire heavyweight title picture. He doesn't have the lineal champion Fury, but he has all of the alphabet titles. He has the unified titleist in Ruiz. He has the WBC titleist in Wilder. And that fight will be very easy to make now. Unfortunately, Wilder has 2 fights already signed and ready to go, with the rematch against Ortiz, which I believe they said is in September, and then Tyson Fury, the first part of 2020. Also, Anthony Joshua, like I tell y'all in several other videos and in the comments, I don't really count other people's money, but I'm sure he has a rematch clause in that contract. I'm almost 100% certain that it's there. And I'm pretty certain that he's going to exercise that. So we're going to get a rematch between the 2 Wilder fights that he has, which are both good fights. Ortiz gave him a good fight. Tyson Fury arguably won to a lot of people's eyes in the fight. So he says we're going to run those both back. And then he wanted Joshua. Now, we have to wait a little bit longer, which honestly can still go into the same time frame because of how the fight's laid out. Joshua can still win his titles back, maybe even fight a rubber match against Ruiz, and still have that mid-2020 time frame, which I believe is the time frame that the promoters wanted to begin with for that fight. And we have to remember that one loss doesn't make or break a fighter. That's one of those things that we've been trying to get rid of in the stigma for boxing for years, because a guy loses, like, oh, he's been exposed, he's used goods, blah, blah, blah. All that is BS. Complete bullshit. Stop bringing that crap up. Anthony Joshua can rebound. He can come back. He can be on top of the mountain again and be in the conversation with Fury and Wilder. And who knows, both of them could lose in this time too. Does that make those fights any less palpable? If they come back and prove to themselves to be the top guys in the division? I don't think so. If they're still the top guys in the division even after a loss, they're still the top guys in the division and they still need to fight. Hell, I still want to see the fight even though Joshua lost to Ruiz. I still want to see him fight Wilder. I still want to see him fight Fury, because I know he's a good fighter. So that's all I got, guys. We got a great upset, a lot to talk about now going on into the future regarding the heavyweight division, as if we didn't already have it, because like I've been talking with guys on Facebook, like follow us on social media, there's a lot of young guys coming up too, and some guys that could be making some noise in the next year or two that could be challenging the big 3 for heavyweight supremacy, or challenging each other, depending on if these guys step away. We got an exciting heavyweight division on our hands with a lot of skilled guys, a lot of guys who bring a lot to the table. So let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comment section. Share your thoughts on the fight, what you think is going to happen next. Like I said, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, so you can catch everything that we have to offer. Up next, we got Triple G versus Rolls. I think his name is Steven Rolls, who is undefeated, but I'm honestly don't know a lot about him. But I like what I'm seeing from Triple G, so I'm looking forward to that fight. Following that, we got Tyson Fury versus Schwartz. And also, we got Pacquiao and Thurman coming up. We got possibly Spence and gosh, I can't think of the guy's name right now. Sean Porter. Mikey Garcia is being discussed on fighting Danny Garcia. Those are all great fights. So we got a lot of boxing to talk about. We got some MMA coming up this great. We got John Jones fighting Santos. I probably do not have that name right. But anyway, there's a lot. DC and Miocic 2 is coming up. A lot of great things. That middleweight title picture in the UFC looks awesome. A lot of Bellator. Anyway, we're going to cover it all. So hit that subscribe button and talk fighting with us. So until the next video, fight on.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.